Jesse Ward was a cowboy who spent most of his life traveling across wide-open lands with only his horse for company. The sun, the sky, and the sound of wind were the closest things he had to a family. He woke up each morning before sunrise, brewed his coffee over a small fire, and watched the sky slowly turn from dark purple to bright gold. His days were quiet, steady, and lonely. He was used to it. He believed this kind of life was easier than living around people and caring about them. Jesse had not always been this way. Years ago, he had been a warm-hearted young man who believed in joy, laughter, and close bonds. He once thought that love was a gift that made people strong. But life changed him. His heart had been hurt deeply. Since then, he promised himself he would never let love enter his life again. To him, love felt like a door that opened only to let sadness walk through. So he locked that door and he threw away the key inside his thoughts. He decided it was better to live without depending on anyone or letting anyone depend on him. Yet even with this choice, he was not a cold or unkind man. He was respectful and calm. When he traveled to small towns to trade goods or buy supplies, people greeted him politely. They saw a quiet man with tired eyes but a steady voice. He never caused problems. He would tip his hat, speak only when needed, and leave before anyone could ask personal questions. He never stayed anywhere longer than necessary. The idea of staying made him uncomfortable, as if he might grow attached to something again. The open desert and rolling grasslands offered him peace. He enjoyed watching small details that many others overlooked, how the clouds changed shape, how the smell of earth became stronger when rain was coming, how his horse lifted its ears when it sensed water nearby. Jesse was not a man who needed excitement. He found comfort in simple things. Routine was his friend. His horse was his steady companion. Silence was his shelter. Sometimes in the evenings, when he sat alone beside his campfire, he felt a soft ache inside his chest. It was not sharp or sudden. Instead, it was a slow kind of longing, the kind that reminded him that even though he had chosen to live alone, he was still human. Human hearts, no matter how strong, still remember love and warmth. He would stare into the fire and think of the life he once had, and the people he once held close. He would not speak of these memories to anyone, not even to himself. He only allowed the feelings to pass like drifting smoke. People who crossed paths with Jesse often wondered why a man like him chose to be alone. He was capable, thoughtful, and had a calm presence that made others feel safe. Yet he kept distance. If a ranch owner offered him steady work, he would accept only for a season and then move on. If someone invited him to join them for a celebration or gathering, he always politely declined. He was like a river that never stayed in one place long enough to form deep roots. One late afternoon, Jesse rode along a quiet valley where tall grasses swayed gently, and cottonwood trees lined a slow, lazy river. The sky was soft blue with only a few white clouds floating across it. Jesse enjoyed this place. It was peaceful and open, and he could hear the birds singing without interruption. His horse walked at a relaxed pace, and Jesse allowed his mind to rest for a moment. The land felt alive around him. The soft rustling of leaves, the distant call of a hawk, and the warm smell of sunlit earth made him feel a sense of belonging, even if he believed he belonged nowhere. He thought that maybe this was enough. A man did not need other people if he had land, quiet, and a place to breathe. Yet deep down, Jesse knew that human hearts naturally reach for other hearts. It was something he tried to ignore, like a whisper he didn't want to hear. He had pushed away the idea of love and companionship so many times that the thought of opening up again felt impossible. He believed that love made a person vulnerable, and vulnerability made a person hurt. He promised himself long ago that he would never let that happen again. However, the world has a way of changing the paths of those who think their journeys are already settled. Life often brings new people, places, and moments at the exact time one least expects them. Jesse did not know that soon. His path would cross with two young women who would quietly challenge the vow he had lived by for so many years. He did not know that something in their presence would soften his guarded heart, even if he tried to resist it. For now, he was simply a cowboy traveling alone, unaware of how soon life would shift. As the sun began to set, Jesse prepared to make camp near the river. He loosened the saddle on his horse, brushed its coat, and spoke to it softly, as he always did. He believed that kindness must still be practiced, even if he kept his heart closed. After tending to his horse, he gathered sticks and arranged them carefully into a small fire. He lit it slowly and patiently, then warmed his hands in front of the gentle flames. Night rose around him, The sky darkened into a blanket of stars. The air cooled and carried the scent of desert flowers. Jesse sat near the fire and poured himself a small cup of coffee. He watched the steam rise and disappear. He liked how simple moments asked for nothing and offered quiet peace. He closed his eyes and listened to the sounds around him. Crickets chirped. Water moved softly in the river. The night was calm. In this calmness, Jesse felt something he rarely allowed himself to feel. The sense that maybe life could still surprise him in ways that were kind, not painful. He opened his eyes and looked at the stars. They reminded him that the world was larger than his grief, larger than his fears, and larger than the walls he had built around his heart. Yet he was not ready to change, not yet. Healing takes time, and Jesse did not believe he deserved healing. He believed the solitude he lived in was his only safe place. He did not know that soon the wind would shift. New voices would enter his life. Gentle voices, brave voices, voices that carried their own stories of strength and loss. He did not know that his journey was about to change in a way that would slowly and quietly guide him back toward the very thing he had spent years locking away. For now, Jesse Ward sat alone beside his campfire thinking he had chosen a life without love. He did not realize that love was already on its way toward him, slowly, like morning light returning after the darkest part of night. The next morning, Jesse continued his journey along the riverbank. The air was cool and the early sunlight gave the water a soft golden shine. His horse walked slowly, its hooves pressing gently into the damp soil. The quietness was soothing. Jesse liked the morning because it felt like the world was beginning fresh, giving everyone a chance to start again, even if they did not realize it. As he traveled farther, he noticed something unusual. There were footprints near the river's edge, not from boots but from lighter steps. They looked like the steps of people traveling on foot. That was not uncommon, but these tracks seemed rushed, as if someone had been moving quickly, maybe searching for something or trying not to lose their way. Jesse studied the ground carefully, not out of fear, but from the habit of a man who had learned to read the land like a quiet language. He followed the tracks for a short distance, and soon he heard soft voices carried on the wind. The tones did not sound distressed, but they held a hint of urgency. Jesse guided his horse toward the sound and reached a clearing where two young women stood near the river. They were Apache, dressed in traditional clothing decorated with thoughtful patterns. One was older, perhaps in her early 20s. She stood tall with calm eyes that watched everything around her carefully. The younger one, perhaps 17 or 18, sat on a rock holding her ankle with a small wince. The moment Jesse arrived, both sisters turned to look at him. The older one stepped slightly in front of her younger sister, not in fear but in gentle protectiveness. Jesse respected that instinct. He stopped a short distance away, keeping his posture open and peaceful. He tipped his hat politely. "Morning," he said with a quiet voice. The older sister nodded in greeting, but she did not speak right away. She was studying him the same way he had studied the footprints, not judging, just observing. The younger sister smiled faintly, though her expression showed she was trying not to show discomfort. Jesse noticed the younger sister's ankle seemed swollen. It looked like she had stepped on uneven ground or slipped on wet rocks by the river. Nothing serious, but enough to make walking painful. "Someone's hurt?" Jesse asked softly. The older sister hesitated, still unsure if they could trust him. Jesse understood. He did not move closer. Trust was something earned slowly, especially among strangers. After a moment, the younger sister spoke first. Her voice was warm and gentle, with a quiet strength in it. "I twisted my ankle," she explained. "We were trying to cross the river, and I slipped." Jesse nodded. "I see." His voice held no judgment, only sincerity. "I know a way to help if you're comfortable with it." "May I take a look?" The older sister studied him again. She could see he was calm and not pushy. She nodded once, allowing him to approach. Jesse knelt beside the younger woman. He was careful, his movements slow and thoughtful. He examined the ankle without touching it first, making sure she was at ease. Then he gently checked the joint, his hands steady. The younger sister winced only slightly. "It's not broken," Jesse said reassuringly. "Just strained. It needs rest, cool water, and support." The older sister finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but strong. "Thank you," she said. "I am Avella, and this is my younger sister, Suri." Jesse gave a small nod. "Jesse Ward," he replied. Shuri looked relieved. Do you know how to help it? She asked. Yes, Jesse said. I can make a wrap from cloth and willow bark. It helps swelling go down, the sisters agreed. Jesse gathered the materials from the nearby trees and from a small kit in his saddlebag. He worked with calm skill, explaining each step to show there was nothing to fear. When he wrapped Suri's ankle, he tied the cloth gently but firmly, making sure she felt comfortable. Suri smiled softly when he finished. That feels better already. Avila watched him quietly. She noticed the way he worked, with care but also distance, like someone who helped others yet kept his heart guarded. She wondered about the silence behind his eyes. They rested together near the river for a while. Jesse sat beside his horse, giving them space. The water flowed softly and the cool breeze carried the scent of pine and earth. The scene was peaceful. After some time, Avila spoke. We are far from home, she said. We were gathering herbs and water, but we traveled farther than we expected. We must return to our community soon, but Suri cannot walk long distances today. Jesse understood immediately. To travel with an injured ankle across uneven land would be painful and slow. You can ride with me, Jesse offered gently. He was careful not to sound rushed. My horse is strong and calm. I can walk beside. Avila exchanged a look with her sister. Suri nodded, grateful. Avila then turned to Jesse. Thank you, she said. We accept. Jesse helped Suri onto the horse with patience and respect. He adjusted the saddle blanket so she would be steady and comfortable. Avila walked beside Jesse, maintaining thoughtful conversation. As they traveled, the three of them spoke slowly and simply, learning small things about each other. Suri had a bright spirit. She talked about the plants she studied and how each herb had meaning and purpose. She spoke with enthusiasm, and her words carried warmth. Avila was quieter. She listened more than she spoke. When she did speak, her words carried weight. She told Jesse about the land they lived on, the traditions they cherished, and the respect they held for nature. She did not speak of sad things nor of conflict, only of harmony, responsibility, and the quiet strength of community. Jesse listened. He liked listening. Their words brought something gentle to the air, something he had not felt in a long time. It was as if the world itself had softened. Suri, with her bright nature, soon asked Jesse a question that touched something deep inside him. Do you travel alone all the time? Jesse paused before answering. Yes, he said softly. I choose it. Why? Suri asked, not out of challenge, but out of genuine curiosity. Jesse looked toward the distant hills. His voice came slow, thoughtful. Sometimes when a person has lost too much, it feels easier not to hold anything close again. The sisters did not push further, but they understood. Silence settled between them, not empty, but gentle. As the sun lowered in the sky, they reached a place where the land grew greener, and signs of a community appeared in the distance. The sisters were near home. Suri looked at Jesse with gratitude. You helped us when you did not have to, she said softly. We will remember that, Avila nodded. You carry a heavy silence, Jesse Ward. It does not have to stay heavy forever. Jesse didn't know how to respond. Her words touched something deep, something he had locked away. He simply nodded. They parted kindly, without promises, without expectations. What none of them realized yet was that this small act of kindness was only the beginning of their connection. It was a spark, gentle and quiet, but strong enough to change the direction of a life that had been wandering without purpose for too long. The next few days passed quietly, yet something inside Jesse had begun to shift. He continued his journey as usual, but the memory of Avila and Suri stayed with him like a soft echo. He was not used to remembering others for long. Normally, when he met people, they passed through his life like travelers seen from a distance, there for a moment, then gone. But the sisters had left an impression, like footprints that didn't fade. He found himself thinking about their voices, their calm ways of speaking, and the warmth in their eyes. He remembered Suri's laughter when the cool river water touched her hands. He remembered the thoughtful silence Avila carried, like she was always listening to something deeper than sound. These memories were gentle, not painful, yet they stirred a quiet ache in Jesse's chest, a reminder of something he once knew but had long forgotten. For a long time, Jesse had believed his heart was like a locked door. Now it felt like someone had placed a hand on that door, not forcing it open, just resting there, reminding him it was still part of him. Day by day, he rode across valleys and open plains. His horse moved steadily, trusting him without needing direction. The sun rose and set in golden arcs just as it always had. Yet the world felt slightly different, as if it had softened around him. One evening he made camp beneath a cottonwood tree. The leaves whispered softly in the breeze. He sat beside his fire, but instead of staring into the flames as usual, he stared at the night sky. Stars shimmered like small lanterns scattered across endless darkness. He wondered what Avella and Suri might be doing in that same moment. Whether they were sitting around a fire too, or speaking with their family, or simply resting in peace. For the first time in a long while, Jesse felt the desire to be somewhere other than alone. He did not act on the feeling right away. Jesse was a man who moved slowly, especially when it came to matters of the heart. He had spent years teaching himself not to feel deeply, so when feelings began to return, they came gently like a shy light. A few mornings later, Jesse rode near a wide meadow full of wildflowers. The wind carried the fresh smell of sage and grass. In the distance, he saw two familiar figures walking along a worn footpath. His heart recognized them before his eyes did. Avella and Suri. He didn't call out. He simply guided his horse closer, and when the sisters noticed him, their faces lit up with warm recognition. Suri waved excitedly, her ankle now healed enough for steady walking. Avella smiled in her calm, thoughtful way. "You are traveling near our home," Avella said, her tone gentle and even. Jesse nodded. "Seems I passed through the same path again." Suri laughed lightly. "Maybe the path wanted you to come back." Jesse felt a small warmth rise in his chest. He could not deny that their presence felt comforting. The sisters were gathering herbs again, but this time they were not in a hurry. They invited Jesse to walk with them, and he accepted. The three of them moved through the meadow at an easy pace. Suri pointed out plants and explained their uses. Avila observed the skies and the breeze, noticing things Jesse had never thought to notice. As they walked, Jesse found himself speaking more than usual. He told stories of the places he had traveled, the mountains he had seen, the rivers he had crossed. His voice remained gentle, but there was a quiet life in his words that surprised even him. Suri listened with wide interest. "You have seen many places," she said. "Doesn't it get lonely to have no one to speak to on those long rides?" Jesse hesitated before answering. He did not want to appear weak, nor did he want to pretend. So he spoke honestly. "Yes," he said, "it gets lonely. But for a long time I believed loneliness was safer than caring." Avila looked at him thoughtfully. "Sometimes we choose solitude to protect our hearts, but hearts are not meant to be locked away forever." Jesse met her eyes for a moment. In that moment he felt seen, not as a wandering cowboy, but as a person with a history, a pain and hidden gentleness he rarely showed. The day passed softly. They walked, talked, rested near the riverbank, and shared simple food. There was no rush, no pressure, just quiet company. Jesse felt something he had not felt in many years. Ease. No guarding, no pretending, just being. As the sun lowered in the sky, the sisters prepared to return home. Jesse expected to continue on his way as usual. He adjusted the saddle on his horse and prepared to mount, but Suri spoke with open sincerity. "Will you come visit our village? Our family would like to thank you properly for helping me." Jesse paused. Part of him wanted to say no, to leave, to stay in the familiar safety of distance. But another part, the part that remembered laughter, warmth, and gentle conversation, wanted to say yes. He looked to Avila. She did not pressure him. She only offered a small, hopeful smile. "You are welcome as a friend," she said. "You may stay only one evening if you choose, or longer if you feel comfortable. The choice is yours." Jesse felt a soft pull in his heart. The decision felt important, like he was standing at a quiet crossroads in his life. He nodded slowly. "I'll come. Just for a little while." Suri clapped her hands gently with delight. Avella's smile grew, not bright but warm and steady. They walked together toward the village as the sky turned a soft, glowing rose color. The air grew cooler, and the sound of evening birds filled the quiet. When they reached the edge of the community, children played near the homes, elders sat weaving and speaking softly, and the smell of warm bread filled the air. It was peaceful. So different from the solitude Jesse had known for years, Avella introduced Jesse to their family. Their mother thanked him with sincerity and kindness. Their father spoke to him with respect. No one questioned him or his past. No one demanded anything of him. Jesse was treated as a welcomed guest, nothing more and nothing less. As he sat near the fire that evening, surrounded by gentle conversation and soft music, Jesse felt something he had not felt in a long time. Belonging, not forced, not asked for, simply given. He watched Avila speak quietly with a group of women. He watched Suri laugh with children. He listened to the comforting sound of a community that lived in peace. A thought came to him, unhurried and gentle. Perhaps the heart, once hurt, does not have to remain closed forever. Perhaps healing can begin in small steps with soft voices and kind smiles. Perhaps love does not always arrive with grand declarations. Sometimes it arrives in the simplest of moments, walking through a meadow, sharing a fire, being seen without judgment. Jesse did not know what the future would bring. He did not make promises and no one asked him to. But that night, as he lay beneath the starry sky, surrounded by the gentle sounds of life, he felt something new. He was not alone. Not anymore. Days passed and Jesse found himself returning to the village again and again. At first he told himself he was only passing through, only stopping for a short rest or a warm meal. Yet each time he stayed a little longer than he planned. The village had a calm rhythm that felt different from the world he had known. There was laughter here, but not loud laughter. There was work, but not rushed. Everything seemed to move to the gentle pace of nature, like the steady flow of a river. Jesse helped where he could. He mended fences, carried water, and repaired small things that needed fixing. He did these tasks not because he felt he had to, but because it simply felt right. He found comfort in the steady rhythm of work shared with others. The people thanked him kindly, never expecting him to do more than he wished. Every evening, the village gathered around the central fire. Music filled the air, soft songs carried by drums, flutes, and voices that blended like warm colors. Children played nearby. Elders shared stories, and the smell of herbs and cooked corn drifted gently in the air. Jesse sat among them, not speaking much, but feeling part of something meaningful. Avila and Suri often sat near him, though not always. They gave him space, understanding that his heart was still cautious. They treated him not as someone to fix or change, but as someone simply walking his own path. That quiet respect allowed Jesse to breathe more freely than he had in many years. One late afternoon, Jesse and Avila walked along the river. The river was calm, reflecting the soft yellow light of the lowering sun. The wind carried the scent of sage and blooming desert flowers. The sky stretched wide, full of gentle pastels. Suri stayed behind that day, helping her mother prepare evening meal. So it was just Jesse and Avila walking side by side, saying little at first. Their silence felt easy, like two trees growing beside one another, separate yet sharing the same soil. After a while, Avila spoke softly. "You are more at ease now," she said. "Your eyes do not look as heavy." Jesse took a slow breath. "I didn't realize how heavy they had been," he admitted. Avila nodded thoughtfully. "When the heart carries pain for a long time, it forgets what it feels like to rest." Jesse looked at the flowing water. "For years I believed that wandering alone was my answer. I thought that if I kept moving, the past couldn't touch me." Avila looked at him gently. "But the heart travels with you, does it not?" Jesse paused. Then with a quiet breath he said, "Yes, it does." She didn't press him. She didn't ask him to explain what he had lost. She simply walked beside him, letting silence say what words could not. They reached a place where the river slowed, forming a clear pool. The water shimmered like polished glass. Jesse sat on a smooth stone and Avila sat beside him. The world felt still, as if holding its breath. After a moment, she spoke again. "My sister and I have known hardship too, Jesse. Everyone carries something. But we learned that pain does not mean the heart must close. Sometimes it means the heart must grow bigger to hold both memory and hope." Jesse listened. Her words touched something deep inside, like soft fingers brushing a wound that had long been hidden. He had never told anyone the full story of why he had walked away from love. He did not tell it now either, but something inside him loosened just slightly, like a knot beginning to untangle. As the days continued, Jesse and the sisters shared more moments like that. Simple, gentle, steady. Jesse learned that Avila's calm strength came from years of observing nature and listening to elders. He learned that Suri's bright laughter came from her belief that joy was something worth choosing every day. He learned that the village's peace came not from never facing challenges, but from facing them together. One morning, the village prepared for a seasonal gathering. Families from nearby valleys would visit. There would be shared music, shared meals, shared stories. It was a time for unity, appreciation, and gratitude. People cleaned their homes, prepared food, gathered flowers, and decorated the central space with woven cloth and colorful ribbons made from plant fibers. Shuri was especially excited, her eyes bright with anticipation. "It will be beautiful," she said, arranging flowers in gentle patterns. "You must stay for it," Jesse hesitated. He felt welcome here, but he did not want to impose. "I don't want to take a place that belongs to someone," he said softly. Avila shook her head, her voice warm and certain. "Your place is where your footsteps bring you, Jesse. If you come with respect, then you belong." Those words settled in his chest like a stone dropping into deep water. Not heavy, but steady. During the gathering, Jesse watched families greet one another with joy. Children danced barefoot. Elders shared blessings for the coming season. People moved with purpose and peace. The air felt full of gratitude, as if the land itself was smiling. Shuri urged Jesse to join a group dance around the fire. Jesse was uncertain. Dancing was not something he had done in a long time. But Suri offered her hand, her smile kind and reassuring. "Just move with the rhythm," she said. "You don't have to know the steps." So Jesse stepped into the circle. The music was slow and gentle. His movements felt awkward at first, but soon he found the rhythm, not with his feet but with his heart. He looked across the circle and saw Avila watching. She smiled, soft and proud. For the first time in many years, Jesse laughed. It wasn't loud. It was quiet, warm, and genuine. A laughter that came from a place deep inside, one that had been asleep for far too long. That night, after the gathering settled and the stars appeared, Jesse sat outside the village alone. The air was cool and sweet. The moon cast silver light over the land. He felt peaceful, yet thoughtful. Avila walked over and sat down beside him, her presence gentle. "You are thinking deeply," she said softly. Jesse nodded. "I feel as though I have been walking for years with my eyes closed. Now it feels like they are slowly opening." Avila smiled, not bright but warm like a rising sun. "Healing does not happen all at once," she said. "It happens in breaths and steps and shared moments." Jesse looked at her, really looked. Her eyes reflected both strength and kindness. She was not asking anything of him. She was simply offering presence. He felt his heart shift again, not breaking but opening very slowly, like a flower touched by the first warmth of spring. He didn't speak of love. He didn't make promises, but he felt something clear and honest. He wanted to stay, not because he feared leaving, but because he finally saw something worth staying for. Time began to move in a new rhythm for Jesse. He stayed in the village longer than he first intended, but not because he felt trapped. He stayed because each day felt meaningful in a quiet way. Each morning began with the soft sound of birds greeting the rising sun, and each evening ended with shared food and warm conversation. Life moved slowly here, and Jesse found comfort in that pace. One early morning he woke before the others, as he always did. The sky was still soft and blue, carrying the last traces of night. The smell of dew rested on the grass. Jesse saddled his horse not to leave, but simply to ride a short distance and clear his thoughts. The land around the village was wide and open, the kind of land where a person's mind could breathe. He rode softly, letting his horse walk at a relaxed pace. He didn't think of the past as much as he used to. His memories were still there, but they no longer pulled on him the way they once did. They felt lighter, like leaves drifting on a slow river. On his way back to the village, he saw Suri gathering flowers near the edge of the meadow. She waved to him, smiling brightly, her hair moving lightly with the breeze. "You're up early," she said. "Old habits," Jesse answered. "The sunrise is the only thing I've always trusted to come every day." Suri nodded thoughtfully. "You notice small things. That is a gift. Many people walk through life without looking." Jesse smiled a little. Suri always had a way of saying things that made thoughts feel warm. As they walked back together toward the village, the smell of breakfast, corn cakes, warm bread, and herbs, drifted through the air. Families were waking, beginning their day with gentle talk and laughter. Jesse watched these small scenes and felt a peace that he never thought he would feel again. Later that day, Avella approached him near the river. She carried 2 woven baskets filled with freshly washed cloth. She placed them on a rock and sat near him. The sunlight reflected on the water, turning it into a soft ribbon of gold. "You look thoughtful," Avella said. Jesse rested his hands on his knees. "I've spent so many years telling myself that I couldn't stay anywhere, that I shouldn't let myself care. Now I'm not sure what comes next." Avella listened quietly, letting his words settle into the air before she responded. "Life does not ask us to know everything at once," she said. "Sometimes it only asks us to take the next gentle step." Jesse looked at her. He admired the way she spoke. Not to impress, not to convince, but simply to share truth from her heart. He took a slow breath. "I don't know what step to take." Avella did not look disappointed. She did not try to guide him faster than he was ready to walk. Instead, she spoke softly. "Then stay still for a while. Sometimes stillness is a step too." Jesse felt something inside him ease, like a knot loosening. He smiled. Just a small smile, but one filled with honesty. The days that followed were full of simple moments. He helped the elders gather wood. He listened to stories told by the children who adored him simply because he was kind and gentle. He sat with Avella and Suri during quiet evenings, watching the stars appear slowly in the dark sky one by one. Little by little, Jesse's heart grew fuller. One evening, as they sat near the fire, Avella spoke softly. "My sister and I are grateful you came into our lives," she said. Suri nodded, her smile bright and true. "You brought calm with you," she added. "Even when you thought your heart was closed, you still carried kindness." Jesse lowered his eyes. "I spent a long time believing my kindness was small. I didn't think anyone would notice it." Avella's voice was gentle. "The smallest kindness is still a light. Even a single light can guide someone through a dark night." Jesse felt those words settle deep inside him. They touched a place that had been silent and untouched for a long time. The night air grew cool and the fire crackled softly. Above them, the stars shone like scattered silver seeds across the sky. Jesse realized that this moment, this simple moment, felt complete. No longing, no ache, just presence. He understood then, quietly and without fanfare, that he did not need to return to the wandering life he once knew. He did not need to keep traveling to outrun his past. The past had shaped him, but it did not need to hold him forever. He looked at Avella and Suri. He saw not just companionship, but connection. Not just friendship, but peace. And somewhere growing slowly, tenderly, was the start of love. Not the sudden kind. Not the overwhelming kind. But the kind that grows in silence like a seed beneath warm soil. The next morning, Jesse walked to the river alone. The water moved gently, catching the light of the rising sun. He knelt beside it and touched the cool surface with his fingertips. He felt grounded, present, alive in a way he had not felt in many years. He did not speak, but his heart whispered something he finally understood. "I am ready." Later that day, he found Avella sitting beneath the shade of a cottonwood tree, weaving a basket. He sat beside her quietly. They did not need to fill the air with words. After a while he spoke, his voice steady and sincere. "I would like to stay," he said, "not because I have nowhere else to go, but because this place feels like a home I did not know I was looking for." Avella looked at him with warmth in her eyes. She did not smile suddenly or react with surprise. She took his words in, held them gently, and replied just as softly, "Then stay. Not as someone passing through. Stay as yourself." Jesse nodded. His chest felt light. His heart felt open. Suri joined them moments later, and when she heard his words, her whole face filled with joy. She hugged him lightly, her happiness bright and warm. Jesse laughed softly, a sound that felt natural now, like it belonged to him. From that day forward, Jesse's life found new rhythm. He worked beside the people. He shared meals, shared stories, shared laughter. He found purpose in helping others. He found comfort in belonging. He found peace in sitting beside Avella, watching sunsets that painted the sky with soft colors. He did not rush love, and love did not rush him. It grew slowly, like morning light spreading across a quiet valley. He had once believed his heart was broken beyond repair. Now he knew it had only been waiting for a place where it could rest and grow again. The cowboy who once swore never to love discovered that love does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives gently, step by step, carried by patience, kindness, and shared moments. And in that quiet, steady love, his heart found its way home.